live Halloween show. And that, good evening and welcome to the 8th annual live Halloween show.
Deja vu.
Deja vu.
All over again.
All over again. You're watching Flashlight Theater. We've been on the air now since October 27th, 2007. Our mission has always been to bring you the very best in sci-fi and horror classics. Why do we call the show Flashlight Theater? Think about it. Even the scariest story you were told as a child sitting around the campfire was a little bit scarier when the storyteller held a flashlight under his chin.
Whoa.
Tonight, our theme is all things alien, things from other planets, conspiracy theories, mysteries. We've got a great movie later tonight. I'm Mike Sadowskis, your tour guide through terror, and I'm joined by Mark Motes.
I'm the Flashlight Newshound.
Leland Schuler. And
We've got an empty chair tonight because we have a correspondent out in the field, and look who's here.
Is this
I
Smiley?
just got back from Dayton Air Force Base.
Well, I'm
with
glad you're here.
classified blue
You were
book
right,
files.
Pat?
Man.
Yeah.
And
They're
classified?
going to let us release the file information tonight.
tonight on live
Unbelievable.
television?
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go to federal prison for the rest of our lives, right? But that's okay. That's part of the show.
Johnny Cash comes sometime.
Yeah.
Well, used to. Sorry, rest his soul.
Not lately.
That's another show altogether.
Now, we've also got another special treat along with, I think we're going to have an annual appearance by Tor Johnson, letting us know how he spent his last year, and something even more exciting than that. When Smile and I went to Kelly, Kentucky for the Little Green Men Days festival, it was our pleasure to meet a tremendous band who came there from Chicago, a band called Crashland. In fact, this is a copy of their CD. I don't know, we'll try to show it again later if you can't zoom in on it. But the music is absolutely tremendous. They were nice enough. They were nice enough to come down here to join us for this live Halloween celebration. And they're going to perform a song for us right now. The song, I believe, is appropriately titled Crashland. So, guys, take it away.
Happy Halloween.
Did they crash land in the high desert sand? A mystery to man. Can they understand? And the sand swept away the truth of the day. And the sand swept away the truth of the day. Did they crash land in the high desert sand? A mystery to man. Can they understand? Yeah. And the sand swept away the proof of the day. And the sand swept away the truth of the day.
All right.
Excellent.
That was the great music of Crashland, who's joined us tonight all the way from Chicago. We're very, very excited to have them here tonight. The theme what inspired their music, and we're going to find out more about them. We're going to interview them later. But back in July of 1947, a story came from New Mexico. The headline, and I'm moving it all around here, Roswell Army Airfield captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. All right,
So
that
a
was
veritable Crashland, if you will.
exactly in
That's see how we
Roswell.
segue like that?
That's kind of, we're a segue group,
We
aren't
are.
we? We like to segue,
Yeah.
don't we?
Yeah.
We're segue.
smoothly.
Very smooth segue. So a rancher, Mac Brazel, moving the sheep, they find this debris field. They send out that press release, newspaper headlines all over the world. Before you know it, the next day, General Ramey, who was in charge of the 8th Air Force, they said he emptied the Roswell saucer. All of a sudden, the story became that it was nothing more than a weather balloon. And the story kind of disappeared for about 30 years. Boom! So anyway, it was
Sorry.
very rainy. You could put the weather balloon down.
Yeah.
The story disappeared for about 30 years and then kind of resurfaced in the late 70s. We'll talk more about that later, what some of the different theories are. But that's kind of where, and when they talk to the band, we'll find out what has inspired them. So, speaking of conspiracy theories, back in January of 1948, there was an incident with a Kentucky National Guard pilot, Thomas Mantell. Smiley, tell us a little bit about what happened to Thomas Mantell.
Is this part of the classified
he
stuff?
was-
that you
This is
pulled?
classified. It's right out of Project
right.
Blue Book.
He was a decorated war hero from World War II combat missions, had 2,167 flight hours.
Wow.
And there was some Kentucky police, I believe, that saw this big silvery object up in the sky, and they contacted these 4 P-51 Mustangs that were flying over the control tower in that area of Kentucky, and they sent them to investigate what it was. Well, they climbed up to 20,000 feet following the object, and some of the airplanes turned back because of low fuel and low oxygen. Well, Mantell continued to 25,000 feet, and they believe because of lack of oxygen, he blacked out and spiraled down and crashed.
Or that he was shot down by the flying saucer.
Right, right. And they didn't know that what the military later said it was the skyhook balloons. They didn't realize that was top secret at the time. So they just saw a 100-foot diameter metallic object. So they had no idea what it was.
Smiley, I hate to say this, but you're being a buzzkill. This is a UFO night. Come on.
So they're saying it was a
They're
balloon.
going again,
balloon.
just like Roswell.
Yeah, just like yeah, it's a balloon. Yeah,
Well-
we're seeing a theme here.
Yeah. Look out for balloons.
Theme of baloney.
Now, Flashlight Theater has been producing a series of short UFO segments, and I think we're about to take it to the one on the Thomas Mantell incident. And that is going to become its own spin-off little half-hour series coming up here in the next few months. So let's give the folks at home a look at our first installment of Flashlight Theater Presents True UFO Stories, the Mantell Incident. Flashlight Theater presents True UFO Stories. Tonight, the Mantell UFO Incident. The Mantell UFO incident took place on January 7, 1948, over the skies of Kentucky. 25-year-old Kentucky Air National Guard Captain Thomas Mantell lost his life while piloting his F-51 Mustang in pursuit of what was initially described as an unusual aerial object when it was spotted by the Kentucky State Highway Patrol heading westbound near Maysville, Kentucky. More reports were called in to Godman Army Airfield at Fort Knox from Irvington and Owensboro, Kentucky. Witnesses claimed to see a circular object 250 to 300 feet in diameter. Beginning at about 1:45 that afternoon, trained military observers began to describe what they saw. Sergeant Quentin Blackwell saw the object from his position in the control tower at Fort Knox. Base Commander Colonel Guy Hicks saw the object and described it as very white, about 1/4 the size of a full moon. Through binoculars, it seemed to have a red border at the bottom. Observers at Clinton County Army Airfield in Ohio said the object had the appearance of a flaming red cone trailing a gaseous green mist. Another observer at Lockbourne Army Airfield near Columbus, Ohio, noted, just before leaving, the object came very close to the ground, staying close for about 10 seconds, and then it climbed back to its original altitude of about 10,000 feet at a very fast rate of speed. It then leveled off and disappeared into overcast. Its speed was greater than 500 miles per hour in level flight. Sergeant Blackwell radioed 4 Kentucky Air National Guard F-51s already in flight, one piloted by Captain Mantell, advising them to approach the mysterious object. Sergeant Blackwell was in radio communication with the pilots throughout the event. One of the 4 F-51 pilots was low on fuel and quickly broke off the chase. The other 2 pilots accompanied Mantell in steep pursuit of the object. Mantell ignored suggestions that the pilots should level off in an attempt to get a better view of the unidentified object. The 2 other pilots reportedly called off their pursuit at 22,500 feet. Despite the fact that Captain Mantell did not have oxygen in his F-51, Air Force reports say that he continued his pursuit of the object past 25,000 feet. It is at this time that the official Air Force report claims Mantell blacked out from lack of oxygen and his plane began spiraling back to Earth. That is a perfectly plausible explanation. When firemen later pulled Mantell's body from the wreckage of his Mustang, his watch was stopped at 3:18, the time of the crash. His F-51 had actually crashed into the front yard of a farmhouse in Franklin, Kentucky. Oddly, Mantell crashed and died only a few miles from where he was born, in Franklin. Some skeptics doubt that Mantell would have risked flying to an altitude of 25,000 feet. They said that Mantell was an experienced pilot who had logged more than 2,000 hours of flight time. They pointed out that Mantell was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for courageous action during the World War II Normandy landings and an Air Medal for heroism. There is also an incident statement made by Captain Kerry Carter, who was monitoring Mantell's radio transmissions in the Godman Control Tower. Carter maintains that Mantell radioed he was going to 20,000 feet and if no closer will abandon chase. There is yet another controversial question. What were Mantell and his fellow pilots actually pursuing? The Air Force Project Sign that investigated UFO sightings initially claimed that Mantell's flight was chasing the planet Venus. That idea was later discounted because Venus would not have been visible at that time of day. Astronomer Dr. J. Allen Hynek, a scientific consultant to Project Sign, later theorized that Mantell's flight was pursuing a Navy Skyhook weather balloon. The Skyhook balloons were made of reflective aluminum and about 100 feet in diameter. Project Sign also later said that multiple Skyhook balloons were launched from Clinton County, Ohio, on the day of the incident. People who support the Skyhook balloon theory point out that the program was secret at the time of the incident, and that the Defense Department would also be reluctant to admit that this secret program led to the death of a Kentucky Air National Guard pilot. UFO investigator Donald Kehoe disagreed with Hynek in his 1950 article on the Mantell incident in True magazine. He said no balloon could have performed the lightning-like maneuvers observed by several witnesses. Adding to the mystery are the questions raised by more of Mantell's radio transmissions. Some reported that Mantell said, "The object looks metallic and tremendous in size." Others reported Mantell as saying, "The object is above me and moving at about half my speed."
The strangest transmission was allegedly overheard by Richard Miller, who was in the operations room of Scott Air Force Base in Belleville, Illinois. Miller was monitoring the chatter between Mantell and Godman Tower when he claims Mantell exclaimed, "My God, I see people in this thing." Miller also reported that in a briefing held the morning after the crash, investigators stated that Mantell had died pursuing an intelligently controlled, unidentified flying object. There were also rumors that Mantell's body was found riddled with strange holes, fueling speculation that his F-51 had actually been shot down. Reports of the Mantell crash created a sensation. The New York Times headline of the Mantell story was, "Flyer Dies Chasing a Flying Saucer." Historian David Michael Jacobs argues that the Mantell case marked a sharp shift in both public and government perception of UFOs. Previously, mass media often treated UFO reports with a whimsical or glim attitude reserved for slow news cycles. Following Mantell's death, however, Jacobs notes, the fact that a person dramatically died in an encounter with an alleged flying saucer dramatically increased public concern about the phenomenon. Now a dramatic new prospect entered the thought about UFOs. They might be not only extraterrestrial, but potentially hostile as well. Mantell is honored with an historical marker on Interstate 65 in his hometown of Franklin, Kentucky, that was erected on September 29, 2001. Despite the Air Force explanations, what actually happened to Captain Thomas Mantell during his final flight on January 7, 1948, and what exactly he was pursuing on that day remain a mystery.
So that was the story of the Thomas Mantell shoot-down incident. Once again, we're going to blame it on a balloon. The other exciting thing, as you already know tonight from hearing their great music, is we have Crashland here. We're going to take it to the band stage so that Smiley and Mark can learn more about the band that's traveled here from Chicago. Take it away, guys.
I'm here with Lynn, the drummer of Crashland, and John on bass, and Mark's with.
And we've got Derek here, and we've got Dave here.
Yeah. When and where did you get started with Crashland Band?
Well, I would say the idea of Crashland has been around for a while. I think we officially started in about 2006, and we were visiting New Mexico. We were out in Albuquerque. My husband is Dave over here on the guitar, and we took a ride down to Roswell because Dave was very insistent on going to visit the town, and it definitely is a fun town. They definitely have decked everything out in Main Street, Roswell, to alien everything. Alien lampposts, alien restaurants, alien music stores. And then, of course, you know, the UFO Museum is down there, which is basically the hub of ufology. So my family was visiting the town one day. We spent all afternoon in Roswell, and Dave went into one of the alien music stores, and he bought this little tiny blue guitar, one that you can carry on an airplane. And after our afternoon spent in Roswell, we took a ride down to Carlsbad. Dave has been writing songs and playing guitar all of his life, and when we were in the hotel room in Carlsbad, that's it. Out came Crashland.
That one we just played.
The one song that
It's
we
my
just
favorite.
played. And I guess as a song, I don't have the artistic side of me to be able to actually write a song, but apparently when you're inspired by something, it just pours out of you. So he took the song home. He had a couple of friends record the song, and we put it, or he uploaded it to YouTube. And I would say like within a month, there was like 20,000 hits on the song. There was actually an independent doctor, or I'm sorry, a doctor who was retired. He made an independent film, and he was at the time shopping it around to a lot of the independent film festivals. And he came across the song Crashland online, and he really wanted to use the song. He presented the release, and due to a couple things, the song never got used in the movie, but what it really did do was inspire this idea to create kind of like a musical based on Roswell. So, like I said, we've been at it since 2006, but to me, because of all of the songwriting involved, everything we really have poured into this show, as funny as it sounds, to me the show is really developed into more of a universal experience because we're pretty diverse in the songs that we're playing. We do heavily themed songs about aliens and UFOs, and then we kind of go into tribal sounding songs and beautiful acoustic classical songs. And a part of the development of Crashland, what we really did too to enhance the show is we invested a considerable amount of money into a video show. So if we're in a big enough venue, we have our backdrop on the screen, and we run themed videos to each one of the songs that pretty much follow the soundtrack, of the Roswell experience. So that's just kind of how the show is developed, and it's just been really a labor of love for the last 8 years, because from where we started to where our full production show is right now, it just seems like every single year it's grown, and we got fabulous members in the band. That's really helped as far as writing the material and performing with us, that I only see it getting better and better as each year goes by.
Yeah, but this is a great venue for us too, because it's a theme. It all kind of ties in. We've done biker bars and so forth, which is a good venue. Nothing wrong with the biker bar by any stretch of the imagination. But this is a great place.
Well, yeah, I would say 8 years ago we never dreamed we would be on public access TV. So we're
Lynn,
we're just-
speaking of public access TV, you used the word ufology. You realize this is Saturday night in Covington, Kentucky, don't you? This is not the kind of vocabulary this audience is used to. So thank you for uplifting the intelligence level of that. I want to ask you talked about some of the influence of Roswell itself on this band. Dave, what were some of the musical influences that you brought to the band?
I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan, Zeppelin, anything 70s I love. I grew up listening to 80s metal, so I don't play much of that anymore, but mainly, I've always been a huge Pink Floyd fan.
Some of those Floyd albums, when you think, especially later, like when you get to The Wall and stuff, and they did kind of create those landscapes that you guys are trying to put together. How much of that is part of your music now?
It was just kind of an accidental, actually. It started just snowballing. We started off just writing a couple songs, but yeah, listening to those concept albums definitely planted the seed of doing concept work. And
then, Derek, who are some of your musical influences?
Oh, geez. I'm a big fan of the Beatles, of course, the Grateful Dead, Harmony bands, Crosby, Stills and Nash. So I'm a big fan of Harmony, and I love just about everything. Yeah, you bet.
Do any of you love Chicago?
Oh,
My
yes.
favorite band.
Yes.
You guys are from Chicago. How did you find your way down to Kentucky and the Little Green Men Festival?
I liked their page on Facebook, and then about a couple hours later, we got a message asking us if we traveled, and we said yes.
And now it's all this.
Was that the furthest you've traveled for a performance?
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So this would be the runner-up?
Yes.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
We had great weather down there. It was a great performance.
Thank
Really
you. Yeah,
lucked
we had a
out.
great time.
It could have been real hot.
Yeah, it was a little hot, but we got through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the main reason I went to Roswell was to buy a guitar. You know,
Was that for real, or to buy a guitar not to see the aliens?
No, because I'd always been such a huge fan that I had to have a guitar from Roswell. And it just turns out they had 2 music stores in town, which I was surprised by. I knew they'd have one, but so that was my main focus, is I wanted a guitar for all time from Roswell.
Dave, I see, and all the entire audience can see that you have an FBI shirt on. Is there any significance to that tonight?
Just a big X-Files fan, you know.
That's great. Hey, we're going to kick it back. We're going to let the band actually do what they do best, and that's play music.
Yeah.
But we're going to kick it back to Mike on the main set first while the band gets ready. So back to Colonel Mike Sadauskas at Flashlight Theater.
Okay, listen. All right, everybody. Okay, now we know a little bit more about Crashland. We've heard them talk. In just a moment, we're going to hear them play some more music. But first...
Today's show is brought to you by Kool-Aid. That's right, Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid tastes great. Wish we had some. Can't wait.
And we will before the night is over. Now let's kick it over to Crashland. Take it away, everybody.
All right.
Sit back here, how the story goes. It's a tale about UFO. And in the end, you will say, I must be out of my mind. We can't be the only one to spend our time going round the sun. Better keep your eyes open wide. I must be out of my mind. I am and you are and we are and they are and all of us out of our mind. I am and you are and we are and they are and all of us out of our mind. All of these things I say are true. You know I'd never lie to you. Creatures coming up from above, controlling all of our minds. So that's how this story goes. It's a tale about UFOs, and in the end, you'll say I must be out of my mind. I am and you are and we are and they are and all of us out of our mind. I am and you are and we are and they are and all of us out of our mind. Here we go. Again on the road to Roswell. Here we go. Again on the road to Roswell. Here we go. Again on the road to Roswell. Here we go. Here we go. Again on the road to Roswell. It's a UFO. It's a UFO. It's a UFO. Now the servant is the master. Now the servant is the master. It's a UFO. UFO. Now the servant, he's the master. Now the servant is the master. It's a UFO. 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 Thank you. Looking through the night sky, what could it be? The conspiracy comes alive. Do you believe? Do you believe? Do you believe? until the end. What is this that I'm believing? All these things that I'm seeing, oh, time and space only tell the truth. Travel so quick, here we are, a ray of light, a shooting star. We're lovers in this foreign land. We'll walk the road until the end. What is this that I'm believing? All these things that I'm seeing, Lord, time and space only tell the truth. What is this? What does it mean? I don't know. Oh, time and space only tell the truth. The sunlight shines through the dark black sky. The spirit dances way up high. We're lovers in this foreign land. We'll walk the road until the end. What is this that I'm believing? All these things that I'm seeing, Lord, time and space only tell the truth. Oh, time and space only tell the truth. Oh, time and space only tell the truth.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Black, white, and green, the colors of the storm in the sky. Was it all just a dream? You can find out if you open your eyes. And the satellites above get to talking to who knows who. Do you really want to know? It might scare the hell out of you. Gotta hold on to yourself, yeah. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. You gotta hold on to yourself, yeah. We're heading for the other side. in the black, white, and green, the colors of the storm in the sky. Was it all just a dream? You can find out if you open your eyes. And the satellites above get to talking to who knows who. Do you really want to know? It might scare the hell out of you. You gotta hold on to yourself, yeah. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. Gotta hold on to yourself, yeah. Heading for the other side. You gotta hold on to yourself, yeah. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. You gotta hold on to yourself, yeah. We're heading for the other side.
Thank you very much.
And that is the fantastic music of the band Crashland. If you go to crashlandmusic.com, you can find great things about the band, including a copy of the CD which contains much of the music you're hearing tonight. Okay, so that's great. First of all, I was told I had to explain, it's live television. Periodically, you see weird things go in front of the camera, strange things happen.
Not and beyond us.
Well, actually, that weird thing was not a UFO. That was me forgetting that we have a camera that's focused on the band stage, and for that I apologize. And while we're on the subject of apologies...
Speaking of apologies, I understand that the phone lines here and the secret bunker have been lighting up, and that's due to a careless action on my part, and I duly and sincerely apologize to the English departments at NKU and Thomas More College here in Northern Kentucky. I thoughtlessly downgraded the intelligence level of some of our college-level viewing audience for maybe not knowing the word ufology. We all know that ufology is the study of youths. And
That's right, yes.
so all the youths out there watching tonight, we appreciate you being here and taking a break from your monumental task of studying night and day to enjoy a little bit of Flashlight Theater here with us.
That's right. And our next segment, we're going to tell you another UFO story, a youth story that took place just a few miles north of here in the city of Norwood. Smiley, tell us a little bit about that before we launch the video.
There are 10 sightings from August of 49 until March of 1950 of a massive object. It was well documented by the man who ran the Searchlight in his logbooks, and they actually got film footage on that old reels of film. Someone filmed it, and it was on WCPO Channel 9 News. So it's well documented.
That's
what
legit.
happened.
That's Al Shadowcotty's channel. Nothing could go wrong there.
I know what it was, though. It was a balloon.
It was a balloon.
That's right, it was a
It was
balloon.
a massive
Yellow
balloon.
balloon.
So now, if we are queued up in the booth, let's take you to the story of the Norwood Lights. Welcome to Flashlight Theater's True UFO Stories. Tonight, the 1949 Norwood Lights.
We begin our story at the corner of Drex Avenue and Montgomery Road on the grounds of what is now known as Holy Trinity Church. On Friday, August 19, 1949, this place of worship was known as Saints Peter and Paul Church. This is where, and that is when, the mysterious story of the Norwood Lights began. Hundreds of revelers were celebrating the fact that the annual Jitney Carnival was underway. Sergeant Donald Berger from the University of Cincinnati's ROTC program was operating an Army surplus 8 million candle power searchlight when at 8:15 p.m. his searchlight beam made contact with what Berger described as a massive disc-shaped object that hovered above the crowd. At one point in his notes, Berger interestingly refers to the object as a space platform. In subsequent sightings, the size of the object was estimated to be an incredible 10,000 feet in diameter by University of Cincinnati physics professor D.A. Wells. The Cincinnati Post and the Cincinnati Times-Star carried the story of the strange object over Norwood in their Saturday editions. One of the newspapers reported that the Albee Theater, located on 5th and Main Streets in downtown Cincinnati, was also operating a large searchlight the night before. The paper speculated that hundreds of witnesses were confused by these searchlights reflecting off low clouds. There are a couple of problems with that explanation. First, eyewitnesses reported seeing the object, or perhaps multiple objects, in the skies over Norwood until nearly 6:30 a.m. the next morning. The searchlights being operated by Sergeant Berger and at the Albee Theater shut down many hours before those sightings on the morning of August 20th. Second, a trained Weather Bureau observer reported seeing 2 large stationary objects in the skies over Norwood in the early morning hours. This Weather Bureau employee convinced that while he witnessed solid objects, they were not weather balloons. These objects weren't moving at all, despite the fact winds that morning were gusting between 25 and 32 miles per hour. Furthermore, Cincinnati Post managing editor Robert Lynn and St. Peter and Paul pastor Reverend Gregory Miller both reported that Sergeant Berger's searchlight was making contact with some definite object and was not a simple reflection off the low clouds. Oddly, the searchlight beam appears to bend in this photo, as if the object hovering above it is somehow pulling the light towards it. This is a still frame from a 16mm film that was shot of the mysterious objects over Norwood. The film was reportedly shot on October 23, 1949, by Norwood Police Sergeant Leo Davidson at the request of Reverend Gregory Miller. The last time anyone remembers seeing the 3 25-foot reels of 16mm film that captured the unexplained object was during a 1952 Flying Saucer special broadcast from the WCPO Channel 9 TV studios. Its whereabouts have been a mystery now for the 60 years since. Norwood Police Sergeant Leo Davidson also took this eerie still photo of the mysterious visitors on October 23, 1949. This October 23rd sighting also produced the most amazing eyewitness reports. Several observers watched through a telescope as 5 triangular-shaped craft left the massive hovering object. These strange sightings actually continued for 7 months. Witnesses claim to have seen these unexplained visitors over the city of Norwood a total of 10 times between the first Jitney Carnival visit and the final sighting on March 10, 1950. Some scientists offered public explanations, such as an illumination of gas in the atmosphere or some other type of optical illusion. These scientists' private opinions were reportedly quite different. The Norwood UFO sightings are special both because of the photographic evidence and the hundreds of witnesses who saw the unidentified objects. These observers included scientists, military personnel, law enforcement officers, educators, clergy, and many other highly credible people. We do know that city officials contacted Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, about the unidentified objects seen flying over Norwood. Air Force interceptors were reportedly scrambled during one of the 10 sightings. UFO investigator Leonard Stringfield commented at the time, "Why would the Air Force investigate the sighting if it was one of our own craft?" A very fair question. It is not clear whether the United States Air Force Project Grudge, forerunner of Project Blue Book, ever investigated these incredible sightings. These mysterious lights are as unexplainable today as they were back in 1949.
This young man will go behind the chair, and he's going to do the voice of the alien.
What are we doing now?
What are we doing now? Isn't it tour time? So we need out of here. Yeah, but we're not right now. Get out.
We're starting over on this camera.
You're watching Flashlight Theater live on Northern Kentucky television at the TB&K. We're here tonight. We've got all kinds of great stuff. I think I see Mike in the distance over there. Mike, what are you doing over there?
You know, as always, I'm not really sure, but it's our pleasure tonight, as we have done now for the last several years, to welcome back from his Plan 9 from Outer Space gig, Tor Johnson. And I understand, Leland, you've got, you and Tor have something planned for the folks at home.
Absolutely, absolutely. He's actually here. He's applying to be a permanent position on the show here. So I'm going to interview him. We'll see how he does and make him sweat a little bit.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. So, Tor, we're ready for your interview here. If you'd like to come on in and have a seat over here. You know how to make an entrance.
Tor love people.
You do. Excellent.
Tor hug people.
Oh, well, okay. This is an office environment. I've got your resume here. It is a bit lengthy, but hopefully you're a little more succinct in person, right?
Succinct? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It says here you're looking for a permanent position on Flashlight Theater. Now, what would you like to do here on Flashlight Theater?
Tor love to do more things Flashlight Theater. Tor wants to do what Tor can do. Tor loves to dance.
Okay.
Tor figure Tor and Mike do jazzercise video.
Jazzercise.
Jazzercise.
You know, that might fit into one of the segments on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I can tell you're very enthusiastic about being a member of the show here.
Tor love you people.
Yes. Excellent.
Nobody accepts Tor.
Now, what's your work history? What groups have you been affiliated with before?
Tor have been part of International Brotherhood of Vampires.
Vampires?
International Brotherhood of Zombies.
Zombies?
International House of Pancakes.
Hey, I like that.
Okay, we'll go with that one. Excellent. Now, it says here as well, under experience, it just says encounter. Was that with aliens? What's...
Tor no like speak of that.
I'm going to have to press you for that. We're going to do the background check either way.
Oh.
Tor, open up.
It's hard. Tor hurts when he thinks of this.
Interesting.
Tor walk through field.
Fields?
Field.
Okay.
Tor just doing Tor things. Out of nowhere, spaceship. Come down.
Okay.
Looked at Tor.
Tor
was scared. Asked Tor, where was Route 45?
Well, it's up the road.
But Tor told them.
Yeah.
They left.
Google Maps.
Google Maps.
Yeah. Now, did you go up in the ship? Do you remember this?
Yes, but was more like stowaway than anything.
Okay. Now, it says here you came back with you were pregnant in this spaceship? How did that work?
They did something to Tor, make him have baby.
Okay, so it's like that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
Excellent. And Danny DeVito was in that.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Excellent.
Tor don't own movies.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this interview up here. Let's see. It looks like you could have a bright future here at Flashlight Theater.
Tor happy. Tor happy.
Now, references here, it says Bela Lugosi and Vampira.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Neither of them are around anymore.
Tor saw them last week in Zombie Mixer.
Ah, that's so true. Well, you know what? We'll give them a call on our rotary telephone to the past, and we'll go from there.
Yes.
Excellent. Tor, it's been great having you here.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch.
Okay, yes.
Excellent. All right, I think we're going to kick it back to the band over here. And Mike,
Yeah.
are you talking first?
I think I'm going to try to. It's not easy to do that, but I do have to say also, I did speak with Ed Wood, Tor. He loves you. Headed in a lot of movies. You and I need to get together, do the lunch thing, and put our contract together. You got yourself a new gig, so we're real excited. We're real excited. Yeah, we're happy for Tor. Now, in just a couple of minutes, because everybody's calling the studio, they want to hear more of Crashland, but before we do that, we're going to do another brief UFO video about another thing that happened in New Mexico. Take it away to the green fireballs of New Mexico, and then we'll be back with the band.
Tonight, Flashlight Theater presents True UFO Stories, examines the case of the mysterious green fireballs that traveled the night skies over New Mexico beginning in the late 1940s. Reports of the strange green fireballs were initially dismissed as sightings of military flares. Then, on the night of December 5th, 1948, things changed. Two separate aircraft crews, one military and one civilian, reported seeing what looked like a huge green meteor over New Mexico. Both crews also reported that they didn't believe what they saw was actually a meteor, because the speeding light was traveling low with a flat and then upward trajectory. In fact, the pilot of the civilian aircraft described how the fireball was initially racing ahead of his Pioneer Airline DC-3 and then changed direction, suddenly heading on a collision course. The pilot actually had to swerve his airplane out of the path of the oncoming green object. That same night, security personnel at a number of military installations in New Mexico and Nevada reported seeing a dozen green fireballs traveling generally north to south in the skies above them. One of the bases witnessing the mysterious overflight was the top-secret Sandia base near Albuquerque, New Mexico. Sandia base assembled atomic bombs. When green lights were seen traveling over Sandia again the next night, the U.S. Air Force Office of Special Investigations began an official inquiry. The Air Force was deeply concerned about espionage and sabotage. The Air Force investigators didn't have to wait too long before experiencing a sighting of their own. Two members of the team reported a bright green object racing about 2,000 feet above their aircraft on the night of December 8, 1948. The Air Force witnesses described the object as much brighter and larger than a meteor and traveling parallel to the Earth. The next day, the Air Force consulted with astronomer Dr. Lincoln La Paz from the University of New Mexico. La Paz was an expert on meteors who had previously worked on top-secret military projects. La Paz quickly determined that the green visitors were consistently flying over Los Alamos Scientific Laboratory. Air Force leadership became even more concerned because this laboratory specialized in the development of atomic weapons. On December 20th, 1948, military personnel witnessed a green fireball approach at a 45-degree angle, level off at an altitude of roughly 2 miles, and then speed off. It was becoming harder to explain the sightings as a natural phenomenon. On January 13, 1949, the following message was sent to the Director of Army Intelligence from 4th Army Headquarters in Texas. Agencies in New Mexico are greatly concerned. Some foreign power may be making sensing shots with some superstratosphere device designed to be self-disintegrating. The phenomena may be the result of radiological warfare experiments by a foreign power. The rays may be lethal or might be the cause of the plane crashes that have occurred recently. These incidents are of such great importance, especially as they should be occurring in the vicinity of sensitive installations, that a scientific board should be sent to study the situation. The brightest and most widely seen green fireball sighting occurred on January 30th, 1949 in the skies over Roswell, New Mexico. The next day, Army and Air Force intelligence interestingly informed the FBI that flying saucers and the green fireballs were considered top secret. Hundreds of witnesses were interviewed by military intelligence and Dr. La Paz after the Roswell sighting. Dr. La Paz was becoming convinced that the green fireballs were what he described as an artificial phenomenon. Deeply concerned about national security, La Paz and the Air Force opened a formal scientific convention to study what was innocuously termed aerial phenomena in mid-February 1949. Dr. Edward Teller was among the highly regarded scientific minds to participate. As would be expected, there was a wide range of views about what the mysterious fireballs were and their origin, but no one disputed their existence. On November 3, 1949, scientists presented a report to the Pentagon suggesting that a series of observation posts be established to track the green fireballs. The Air Force agreed to move ahead, launching Project Twinkle on December 20th. The project was discontinued barely 2 years later with no public explanation. Air Force Project Blue Book Director Captain Edward Ruppelt visited the Los Alamos National Laboratory in January 1952 and spoke to a number of scientists and technicians who had witnessed the green fireballs. Ruppelt was surprised that almost none of the witnesses offered conventional explanations for what they had seen. The chilling speculation that the green fireballs were extraterrestrial probes projected into our atmosphere from a spaceship hovering several hundred miles above the Earth. Sightings of these strange visitors continued on and off into the mid-1960s. But what were the green fireballs? What were their origins? The answer to these questions remain an unresolved mystery.
All right, so that was the green gas lights of New Mexico. And Mike, that's another one of the flashlight projects coming up, a
Right.
bunch of little segments.
Right, we have put together several little packages called True UFO Stories. That's going to become a half-hour series of its own coming up in the next couple of months.
And we've got a great sponsor for that, our traditional Juggo Blood, your everyday non-blood blood supplement.
Crash hungry.
And our friend Crash here apparently is hungry. Crash, pal, what does an alien eat?
Anything.
Anything. An alien will eat anything. And I see, Crash, that you have a pink dobro sitting in your lap. What kind of music are you into? That's a tough, another anything kind of question. That's a tough question for an alien. Not a tough question for our band Crashland, though. They're here from Chicago, gracing the Flashlight Theater stage. We're going to send it back over to them right now for another few songs. Take it away, Crashland.
Yeah.
was nowhere down in Old Mountain Road. I took a turn and I saw UFO. The lights were shining and my feet left the ground. My head was spinning. There was an overwhelming sound. I was beamed up. Oh, I thought that was new. It had plush velvet seats and they were midnight blue. And like a Cadillac, it was silver and jet black. I couldn't help but wonder, would I ever make it back to my road? Star Trek, Star Wars, there was something in it too. Those aliens were helping, they were really counting me. They tried to pound me, oh, those green men sure strong. I screamed out loud, what the hell's going on? What the hell is going on? Reached in my pocket, I pulled out my magic harp. And when I started playing, Lord, I blew those notes apart. And when I grabbed the wheel, I finally gained control. Couldn't tell what I was doing, but that's the way I roll. What seemed like just an hour was really many days. I couldn't help but feel I was in a constant haze. Well, let me tell you, children, when you see those flashing lights, you better run for cover if you want to save your life. On that road, that old mountain road, it was a sight to behold. On that old mountain road. Well, if you go down there, you better just beware now. On that road. Well, I think I've got it made. Sit and watch the winter snow. Where all the people around me, are they meant to come and go? When I go to sleep at night, awake in a strange land, it all feels so far from here, with the laughter of best friends. Yeah. Sunny night, reflecting off a full moon. It's not the furthest prettiest place I've ever seen. And I hope I get back there real soon. I will go for walks at night to the Dark Side Cafe, where I'll sip and watch all the objects interplay. I think I've got it made. I really love to knock on wood. And even though there is hell on earth, things can also be so very good. I will not be understood. See the light between two worlds. Love is good. Oh, so good. Oh, so good. Baby, so good. Oh, so good. Baby, love, so good, so good, so good, so good, so damn good. Baby, love, so good, so good, so good. So good, baby, love, so good.
I feel like Derek needs his own Charlie Hodge up here to bring him his water and his scarves like Elvis used to have. You guys, that was, of course, Crashland. You can find them at crashlandmusic.com. That set they played Old Mountain Road, Dark Side Cafe, and then Old String / Beehive. Heard a little bit of classical gas in there, Dave. It sounded like what's the rationale behind, say, an instrumental versus a song with lyrics?
You know, if I can achieve the lyric content instrumentally, I try to, as long as it says something, it's almost like a vocal itself. So.
And then the most important question from your last set, when you dropped the riddle and the rhyme on us, the really burning question I got from that, Dave, what came first, the riddle or the rhyme?
You know, they both came at the same time. That's my theory anyway.
Right on, Smiley.
Tell us about the theatrical stage performance that you're putting together.
You know, that is really just, we're a theater show that is just taking a long time to get there, and obviously we keep putting the elements together. But really what I envisioned in the first place was really just a mix of live theater, band, and kind of like a rock opera in a sense. We're slowly working our way there.
Lynn, you talked earlier on about some of the influences of the band. You and Dave, husband and wife, how did you come up with these two guys?
Well, I actually played in a corporate band with John.
What does that mean, corporate band?
Like sellouts? Were you?
We work for a very large commercial real estate company.
Which will remain nameless.
Nameless. We can't. The lawyers are not getting in on this.
Well, speaking of lawyers, the chief legal counsel was the keyboard player in the corporate band. So they, about a year and a half after I hired into the company, I got the lead drumming role, I suppose, in this band. We did a lot of great gigs, but that's how I met Sean, and we've been working and playing together ever since. Although he works in a different department, I'm in the closing department. He works for Inland Computer Services. I just said their name.
It's all very corporate. It's all very. Nobody heard that. Not a soul.
And then Derek, oh my gosh, we've known Derek for about 12 years now and have been working with him regularly for about the last 5 years, but we worked together quite a bit prior to that too. So
Great.
Derek hit it off musically right away.
Yeah, I can tell. You can see that the way you guys play together. I mean, you play off each other very nicely. The rhythm, then the lead, and kind of alternating back and forth with that.
Thank you.
Smiley?
Have you all got another CD coming out?
You know, we continuously put out music, and so yes, we're actually going back in the studio this week on the 15th.
That's fantastic.
You will also be able to catch Crashland on, of course, this station's fine City Nights program coming up. I believe they're going to be taping that sometime soon in the not-too-distant future. And by not-too-distant future, I mean tomorrow. So I'm not sure exactly when that airs, but you can certainly check your local listings for that. And I think we're going to kick it back to the, or does Smiley have one more?
We're going to go to a video on the Charles Whitted UFO sighting by 2 pilots that they think it was a military jet, but others think it was
Balloon.
a meteor. No balloon.
Balloon.
Meteor.
Swamp
Okay,
gas.
let's go to the clip.
Flashlight Theater presents True UFO Stories. Tonight, the Childs Whitted UFO encounter. Our story begins in the early morning hours of July 24th, 1948. Pilot Clarence Childs and co-pilot John Whitted were flying their Eastern Airlines Douglas DC-3 from Mobile, Alabama to Montgomery. Both experienced airmen had been decorated for their World War II service. They were flying at about 5,000 feet in altitude. At about 2:45 a.m., Childs spotted a hazy red cloud that he likened to aircraft exhaust. It was slightly above them and to the front right of their DC-3 by roughly a half a mile. Childs saw some kind of flying object and told Whitted, "Look, here comes a new Army jet job." They quickly realized that the craft was not a jet plane and was moving towards them at a very high rate of speed. Air Force Captain Edward Ruppelt, who would later head Project Grudge, investigated unusual aerial sightings and would write about this incident. Within a matter of seconds, the UFO was almost on top of them. Childs racked the DC-3 into a tight left turn. Just as the UFO flashed by, about 700 feet to the right, the DC-3 hit turbulent air. Whitted looked back just as the UFO pulled up in a steep climb. Both the pilots had gotten a good look at the UFO and were able to give a good description to the Air Force intelligence people. They had seen the object for about 15 seconds. Both men described the object as cigar or torpedo-shaped and about 100 feet in length and about 3 times the diameter of a B-29 bomber. The fuselage was entirely smooth, with no wings, projections, or fins. A bright red-orange exhaust was emanating from the rear of the object. This exhaust extended roughly 50 feet behind the craft. They heard absolutely no sound from the object as it raced past their DC-3. Perhaps most intriguingly, the witnesses asserted that the object had what appeared to be 2 rows of rectangular windows. Childs later wrote that there were 2 rows of windows which indicated an upper and lower deck. From inside, these windows had a very bright light. Underneath the ship was a blue glow of light. The light was so bright, in fact, that both pilots were blinded for a few seconds. There were very few differences between the observations of Childs and Whitted. Most significantly, Childs saw a glassy cockpit-like window in the object's nose. Whitted did not recall seeing such a window. Whitted also thought the object was slightly further away than Childs had described. Beyond that, the separate accounts the two pilots gave to the Air Force investigators were virtually identical. Given the early hours of the flight, most of the passengers were asleep. One of them, Clarence McKelvey, would later offer collaborative eyewitness testimony. He said he saw an extraordinarily bright light from his window seat in his aircraft, describing it as unlike lightning. He later told Project Sign investigators that the light seemed to have moved parallel to the DC-3, but at a higher altitude. Within seconds of the close encounter, Childs asked Eastern Airlines flight controllers via two-way radio if any known experimental aircraft were flown in the region. There were none. The flight landed at Birmingham a little before 4 a.m. The pilots went to a hotel only to learn that their sightings had already generated interest. Within a few hours, they were interviewed at radio station WCON and also by newspaper reporter William Key. The UFO report earned national attention. Project Sign investigators interviewed Childs, Whitted, and McKelvey a few days later. These investigators located other witnesses to the event. Ground Crew Chief Walter Massey, who was stationed at Robins Air Force Base in Georgia, about 150 miles from Montgomery, saw a very similar object about an hour before the Childs-Whitted encounter. Massey was certain the object was not a meteor. A few days later, a report from the night of July 24th came in. An Air Force pilot flying near the Virginia-North Carolina border reported that he had seen a bright shooting star in the direction of Montgomery, Alabama, at nearly the exact time the Eastern Airlines DC-3 was buzzed. The Pentagon and Air Force officials offered explanations. The first attempt was to suggest that the pilots had seen a weather balloon. That explanation was quickly withdrawn. An Air Force spokesman also said he found the sighting credible at the time. Project Sign consultant, astronomer J. Allen Hynek, offered what he described as an admittedly far-fetched theory that the pilots had seen an extraordinary meteor. Air Force investigators were reportedly more concerned about the Childs-Whitted encounter than they were about the Mantell incident, which had occurred a few months earlier. Veteran Air Force personnel described these investigators as shaken by what they had heard. No earthbound technology, including newly developed rockets, was capable of the maneuvers described by the DC-3 pilots. Unlike Captain Thomas Mantell, pilots Childs and Whitted had lived to tell about their encounter. Researchers tell us that the Childs-Whitted UFO encounter created a serious disagreement among Air Force leadership. Project Sign personnel had settled on an extraterrestrial hypothesis for the UFO, despite the fact that they were explicitly ordered to abandon that theory. The conflict caused such a deep division that Project Sign was dismantled and replaced by Project Grudge, whose stated purpose was to debunk UFO sightings. Hynek's meteor theory became the official Air Force explanation. However, Hynek's qualification that his theory was far-fetched was deleted from all future discussions of the sighting. Given the credibility of the eyewitnesses, it is fair to say that what Clarence Childs and John Whitted encountered over the skies of Alabama in the very early morning hours of July 24, 1948, remains a great mystery.
Okay, we're back. That was a pretty exciting video segment. We've got some business to take care of. It's been an exciting night. How about a great Halloween live show, everybody? Isn't this been fun? Okay. Yeah. We're real excited about having Crashland here. And they're going to do a few more songs. Yeah, Crashland. All right. So we've got more housekeeping. This is our night of apologies and some other things. Quick, first news flash, Smiley, a news flash.
This is
Quick.
hot off the press. Yahoo News, the International Space Station this week filmed a UFO approaching it. This happens all the time, and as soon as the UFO gets close to the space station, NASA makes the image go to blue screen so you can't see a close-up of the UFO so you could identify what it is. Is it alien or is it maybe one of our military top secret air?
Yeah, real quickly, everybody, we know what it was. It was a balloon. Okay, very good. Next, unfortunately, there was a horrible tragedy during our Goulet promotion.
Yeah.
And my good friend Leland Schuler is here for an apology.
Well, as you know, it was mentioned earlier that Goulet was a big part of the show.
Big part.
But there was actually a promotion deal that went wrong there, and I really do apologize. The Goulet man was scheduled to make an appearance on the show, and he's actually going to burst through that wall over there behind the band. Unfortunately, I ran into him backstage before the show. I got thirsty. I drank him.
I love the guy, but
no!
So at the end, we'll
He's
probably
gone.
put a little note in memory of the Goulet man.
Yeah.
And also, too, it's our great pleasure to be joined by a gentleman that produces another great show on TBNK, Mr. Tim Caldwell. Welcome to Tim.
Thank you.
We're going to spend a couple of relaxing moments talking about what's coming up with Something Suave Theater, Tim.
I actually left my list outside. But there's some good shows coming up. I got my Halloween special for the year. It's going to be aired on Halloween.
Nice.
Perfect.
Which out of the 6 years I've been doing the show, this is the second time it's aired on Halloween, so I'm excited. The movie is the 1980 or 1982 movie Funeral Home.
Who doesn't like a show about a funeral home? That's going to be uplifting, I think,
Bring
right?
it to me. Bring it to me.
It's
Cam.
okay. This is live television.
It's all right.
Don't worry about it. We're all good.
Thank you, Jason. Got my list now. Next weekend will be Don't Open Till Christmas and
Love
Drive-In
that.
Massacre.
Drive-In Massacre. It's a
Right?
classic.
Yeah.
Classic. Yeah.
On top of that, with Drive-In Massacre, I actually got footage of real drive-ins.
I love
So we talk
drive-ins.
about the history of different drive-ins throughout
Didn't
the
we
United
meet in a
States.
drive-in, Melody? Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
How do you think I got my son? Anyway, on the weekend of the 24th, it's going to be Don't Look in the Basement.
That's a
and-
classic.
And the classic Night of the Living Dead.
That's a classic, too.
As I like to call it, almost virtually uncut.
Okay.
There was a shot of a woman's behind I had to remove. But other than that, the movie itself is uncut.
Sounds like when we did Invasion of the B-Girls, guys.
Don't
We had to
look in the
cut a lot out of
basement.
that.
I watched that as a kid, and I've never been in a basement since.
Don't go in the basement.
Yeah.
Don't look in it for
Don't
sure.
believe in basements.
Yeah.
And then on October 31st is Funeral Home. And then November starts our normal schedule, which would be November 1st is Penny Serenade.
I love the Penny Serenade.
Classic Cary Grant movie. On the weekend of the 7th, it's going to be 2 episodes of nothing but great television shows from the 50s and 60s.
Perfect.
The 19th will be Hercules Unchained.
It's about time they
I'm sorry.
unchained that guy.
I got messed up. It's episode 19, November 21st.
Okay, we'll be there. Okay.
The 22nd will be the Tuesday Weld Classic, Rock, Rock, Rock.
I wonder what happens in that movie.
It doesn't rock.
Okay, okay.
And the only thing notable about that movie is that it was Chuck Berry's first appearance on film.
That's notable.
And the soundtrack is his first album.
Oh, very good.
I mean, but it does have great performances by Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers. It has Miss Tuesday Weld, and I mentioned this on the show because I found it kind of insulting. Leonard Maltin's video guide described it as she was just entering her training bra years. And I'm like,
Hey, can we cut that out? Okay, anyway, go ahead. It's all right.
And then on November 28th and then 29th, Long John Silver's.
Love their hush puppies. Yeah, they're good. Yeah. Long John
fries,
Silver's
too.
hush puppies. The fries are good.
The vinegar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I got
okay.
lost.
Okay. Okay.
Now I'm hungry.
Okay.
You just made a fat man hungry.
We'll have to eat.
Thank you. And then we're going to start it all over with episode 1, which was nothing but classic cartoons.
Very good. So I would encourage everybody at home, we appreciate you watch Flashlight Theater. Please also tune into Something Suave Theater. Tim Caldwell does a great job. And speaking of great jobs, The band Crashland has been doing a great job all evening. Let's take it to the band. All right.
I took a ride on a spaceship. Trying to reach the other side. A voice kept telling me I should open up my eyes. But that thought never crossed my mind. Where am I going? What will I find? Now I'm lost on the spaceship, wasting time. Where am I going? What will I do? Now I'm lost on the spaceship, missing you. I took a ride on a spaceship. Trying to reach the other side. A voice kept telling me I should open up my eyes. But that thought never crossed my mind. Where am I going? What will I find? Now I'm lost on a spaceship, wasting time. Where am I going? What will I do? Now I'm lost on a spaceship. I took a ride on a spaceship. Trying to reach the other side. A voice kept telling me I should open up my eyes. That thought never crossed my mind. Where am I going? What will I find? Now I'm lost on the spaceship, wasting time. Where am I going? What will I do? Now I'm lost on the spaceship, missing you, missing you. Lord, I'm missing you. I'm missing you. I'm missing you.
Let's hear it for Crashland. Thank you very much. You are watching the 8th annual Halloween live show on Flashlight Theater, and I think so far tonight we've had a lot of great fun. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Especially appreciate Crashland traveling here all the way from Chicago to grace us. We're so glad that you're here. Thank you very much. we want to thank Sharon. We want to thank Melody for her job as camera operator and floor director.
And brutalist Stalinist dictator. Yes.
We want to thank Martha for her wonderful work on camera. I want to thank Mark Motes, Ken Skelton, Leland Schuler. Again, this has kind of been an apology night,
It was,
guys.
and it was. We got to thank Crash, and we got to
Crash
thank
was
Tor
good.
Johnson.
Tor Johnson was back.
To Jason
Mike,
for not thanking him.
Well, no, because I was going to save that. I'm sorry.
Who's
Well, we
Ken
should
Skelton?
apologize anyway.
Smiley.
Who's Ken Skelton?
He's related to
You just
Smiley.
top secret info. You gave it out.
Oh, like you didn't
Okay.
all show long. Come on,
Okay,
Smiley.
so I guess I have to apologize
There's an
again.
apology.
Another apology. We're sorry about poor Goulet guy for crying out
man.
loud.
That's
Kool-Aid
rough.
guy.
Yeah.
I feel like I should
wanted some.
apologize to my mom too, just for, because that one time.
Yeah, the incident.
Yeah, the incident.
The incident,
So, Mom-
which will remain top secret.
Yeah, Mom, sorry about that.
Now, for those of you that are wondering, we are going to wrap up the show here shortly with one more song by Crashland, one of my personal favorites, which has been the theme, I think, of the first block of the show tonight. Okay? And I do also have to thank my good friend, my baby brother, Jason Dudas, who suffers through all of this. Does a great
Jason.
job holding the whole show together.
Director extraordinaire.
He's
I
a
feel like-
director extraordinaire.
I
He's
feel
a-
like sometime we should get him out here, actually, like on set, and I can feel him shaking his head no in the control room.
we
but-
used to do it at the Church Festival live show,
Right.
and he forever hated me for that. But that's okay. Does a great job. I'll call him as we're getting closer to the Halloween thing. Say, I know you don't have anything better to do on a Saturday night, right? Which of course he does. But we appreciate all of his help. Thanks to the TBNK for letting us use the studio and for allowing us to put our show on the air since 2007. Smiley, it's been quite a trip, hasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, let's not
I
forget.
think We've done.
And we do. We
50
should.
shows.
We've done. I think
50
this may be
shows
our
at least.
50th show. Also, too, before we wrap it up, send it back to the band. One last time, we do want to thank our sponsors, Goulet, and we're very sorry about
really
the late
wanted to be
Goulet
here
man. We're
tonight.
sorry about that. He wanted to be here, but
It
didn't
was
work.
trouble that we couldn't fix with the Juggo blood. We were a little late with our platelet transfusion, so we apologize to the Goulet man. But Juggo blood is otherwise an excellent sponsor. Maybe we should
Hold
put
on.
them together.
Put them together.
Yeah.
Okay, so
maybe,
thank you.
maybe there will be a resurrection next time.
Woo, that could be. Is that
I
heresy?
think
So,
you're supposed to drink that one.
Oh,
well, we'll do that
well,
before the
That's
night
not
is
fruit
over.
punch flavored.
Mom, I'm going to apologize for drinking this too.
Okay, we want to thank all of our little alien figures for joining us on the set. We appreciate them too,
Especially this one.
especially that your inner Rossiter's there.
I've got a story about that one later.
Okay, good. Well, good. But before we wrap it up, we've got one last big surprise. You ready for the big surprise? Are you ready? Okay.
I don't know.
And that is that Crashland is going to play us out with Alien Attack, and I think they might be getting a visit or two from some actual aliens. So let's kick it back up to Crashland.
On Flashlight Theater.
May I suggest you leave a light on tonight?
Well, it's an alien attack. Better run, no time to pack. Feel the X-rays on your back. It's an alien attack. It's an alien attack. Better run, no time to pack. Feel the X-rays on your back. It's an alien attack. Alien. Alien. It's an alien attack. Better run, no time to pack. Feel the X-rays on your back. It's an alien. It's an alien attack. It's in the ball, pop the ball, crack. Feel the X-rays on your back. It's an alien attack. Alien. 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 Alien attack. Alien. Alien attack. Ha 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 ha. on crack. Feel the x-rays on your back. It's an alien attack, yeah. Alien. 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 Alien attack. Alien. Alien. Alien attack. Alien. Alien. Alien attack. Alien. Alien. Alien attack.